Hey Sunil, how are you?
No, I am doing good. Sufficiently warmed up for this conversation.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm trying something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
today I have the pleasure of peer podcasting with Pungi, who is a professional certified coach, who's a poet and a PJ proponent, and is passionate about everything that starts with P. So over to you.
No, I think yeah, that is true. So a lot of peace in the part. So uh, even with coaching, so we start with presence, we start with paths, we start with partnership. So there are a lot of peace in the part. So poetry is there, photography is there, philately is there. Yeah, so there are a lot of peace. So a lot of peace in the
A lot
house.
of peace.
Yeah. Peace, though, absolutely. I think I am at peace most of the time. Volunteering is the only thing that starts with V, doesn't have P in there.
And that's what we'll
Yeah.
be talking about today.
Absolutely.
Okay. So how
Yes.
did your journey start, Pungi?
No, I think for volunteering, it was a beautiful start. So I never imagined myself to be a volunteer. So it was just like all things in life. So sometimes it just happens. We'll have to just go with whatever is happening. So it was a beautiful experience. I think so. Like technically, it started when I entered the software sector,
Hmm.
and before that, I'd been to one volunteering event, and mostly it's like that. So let me go there. Uh, so my birthday, a lot of my engineering friends first year they'd set up my birthday in a orphanage. But after that, there had been hardly any space. So I wanted to do something about it. I taught one particular kid for almost a year and a half, all through like semester 6 and 7 and 8. And that was it. That was majorly what I'd done as part of volunteering. The big part in terms of how corporate and other stuff started with say one event. So it was basically like a Saturday, and you know how Saturdays is for all of us who working in the corporate sector. It is like gold and silver equivalent. And I had a real interesting timeline. So I used to wake up at 6 and reach home by around 9. And that was my usual corporate job.
Hmm.
And Saturday even became a little even more precious with that. And so there was a space wherein somebody had put from the official CSR team, they put a poster out that on Saturday we are going to a particular school. You'll be asked to, share stories from a book, read from a book and all that. And I think 15, 20 volunteers, people that I know of said, oh, we'll go. And when I reached there, behind MG Road, the famous MG Road in Bangalore, there were only three of us in that particular space, and
Hmm.
but it was still a fun experience. I think I was like, oh, let me see where this goes, and it did change my life and a lot of other lives also.
Hmm.
So that was how the initial this thing began. So there are a lot of stories inside. So you want me to go inside the stories, or you want
Sure,
to see?
sure.
Yeah, okay. So just as is, I think that's the first time I'm actually volunteering in a school environment. And the teachers thought we were seasoned volunteers. They went out of the classroom and be like, this class is yours. So I went in there and suddenly, like a full doom machale types. Everybody is shouting on top of their voice. The teacher had to come back and bang the bench twice, and like everybody is then at silence. So the other two volunteers are not from Karnataka, so
Hmm.
they were from outside. And this is like proper only two mediums, Urdu medium and Kannada medium.
Okay.
And so we'd been into that particular this thing. So they were not so comfortable with talking to the kids. So what we did was, I took over the mantle and said, okay, let everybody introduce yourself. So one after the other, every kid basically stood up and be like, oh, I want to be a policeman. I think that time Singham, Dabang, or some space
Ah.
really active. Everybody wanted to be a policeman. First bench, first guy is like policeman, the rest for all police. Second bench, if somebody wants to be an actor, the other for all actors. So it became like this, and finally it came to the boys section to the girls section. All of them wanted to be teachers.
Okay.
So there's one kid who got up and suddenly was very silent. Until now, the mohalla is really set up. like, oh, this is going to be a very fun class. What do they want to do? What is their name, etc., etc. And then this silence was really like it was a pull to all of us. And I said to the young kid, saying, it's okay. Nobody's going to laugh at you. You can tell your name. What is that you want to do? And that's when I think everything, like the world turned upside down, because she started to cry. I'm
Mm.
a first time volunteer, and I'm like, there's no teacher around. But like, why is this kid crying? And I initially thought it's like basically uh, like nervousness, anxiety, etc., public speaking. But turns out, I usually ask whenever I'm sharing this story, I ask, what do you think is happening? What's your guess?
I know the story a little, so I'll let you go.
So for those who are listening in, what happened was that I was informed by her friend next, let's just sitting next to her, that she can't speak, neither can she, share something, not hear something. And that was like, 440 volts, or even more than that, hitting all of us at the same time. And that the stunned silence. Entire class is at stunned silence.
Mm.
And the classmates knew, but I think it was like, I think that particular energy levels, it can't to that particular point, it was stunned silence.
Mm.
And then I think what came to the rescue was a simple chocolate. So a simple chocolate I gave her. She wrote something on a piece of paper. And then, I said, oh, well done. Thank you for sharing. And the next one went on. And I think the other volunteers took over at that particular point.
Mm.
But for me, it was even when I talk about this, I still get those goosebumps moments talking about it. So when I tell people the stories, I said the first time I really volunteered, it was somebody who couldn't speak, who really made me her spokesperson, and it
Mm.
was that space where I said, let's do something.
Mm.
So that's how volunteering began. And we
Mm.
started with one school, and then went up to three. We started with one event with
Mm.
four of us, four volunteers. In the span of 5 years, I think the overall spectrum of volunteers around 500. So
Okay.
it shifted who I was. It shifted a lot of things. Volunteering essentially changed my life.
Mm. Wow. Such a powerful story.
Oh yes. Even now, I think when I share this, I still get goosebumps when I share this story.
Yeah. I could sense it. Even though I'm
Oh,
not present with you, I could sense it.
the coach in you is active.
Okay. Which one is your favorite story apart from this one?
Oh, there are many. There are absolutely many. I think like even top of the head, there are three.
Okay.
Um, so latest, I think from CSR, I moved to PSR, that's personal social responsibility, around 2 years back.
Hmm.
And then there was it was basically that I write stories and I raise funds through them. And then also people contribute. So one wild idea was that I'm dead tired of asking for funds.
Hmm.
And somewhere it essentially goes to a point saying, if I am calling, people are like, oh, this fellow is asking for funds.
Hmm.
So I said, okay, let me do something. I'll give you something in return.
Hmm.
So I started writing, and then it sort of took off. And then with that, we'd raised some funds. And I
Hmm.
set up one poster that, hey, I am looking to contribute to this, and people who are looking for scholarship, please write to us. And
Hmm.
I was not expecting it to go anywhere. So what
Okay.
happened was it went viral on like I think 20, 30 WhatsApp groups. People from
Oh.
all across Karnataka, like right, left, center, they called. I had so many calls coming in that I don't like. I had to really write down everybody's name, everybody's percentage, etc., etc.
Hmm.
There was one call, so young kid from Mysore.
Hmm.
The kid itself, he called, and he's like, "Sir, I'm, like from the voice, it's a very genuine call. It's not a this thing." And then I want some funds today, and we had we were like only 10,000 is the maximum we'll give each of these students.
Hmm.
And we said, okay, I'll share 10K. And then by evening, I shared 10. And then evening, I got the call from the same number. And I was like, okay, maybe it's like saying thank you and etc. So as soon as I picked up the call, all I hear from the other side is complete sobbing.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, what is happening?
Hmm.
And she's like, the mother of the kid basically spoke at that time.
Hmm.
And she's like, I'm the mother of this particular kid. I'm like, I don't know who you are. So it's like, said, today morning you sent 10K. No, I'm like the student, mother's, mother of that student calling. And I said, okay, tell me what's happening. Like today morning, sir, we didn't have even 250 rupees to even put an application form.
Mm.
I don't know who you are. You haven't seen us at all. And by evening you've sent us 10K. You put my score, put my son in college. And I don't know how to thank you back. And then like the full history of their life and stuff. So it was, I think even for me, it was like, over a period of time, it doesn't move me so much. But even then, I was like, oh, even I had tears in my eyes saying, okay,
Mm.
this is something that this is very powerful. So
Yeah.
this is one of the latest favorites. There's another guy who also we supported like this. And then 2 years after that, he called. And I was like, maybe this fellow is asking for funds again. I don't have funds. I very cringily took up the phone saying, I don't know how to tell this fellow that I don't have funds. And he's like, sir, I'm the topper of the college.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've already got campus placement. I was like, oh, wow, this is. And that fellow couldn't speak. So he had a stuttering problem.
Okay.
And his confidence is the lowest. Like
Mm.
when he called first time, I had to like talk to him saying it's okay, don't get tense. You talk to me, it's okay. And then
Mm.
that was the first time he was asking for funds. And
Mm.
like Anusha, what my experience is, I think giving is a lot more easier than
Mm.
asking for help saying I need something.
Mm.
So this fellow had like seriously tough gig when he was speaking that time. 2 years down the line, he said whatever funds were paid for me was actually even paid for year one and year two also. So
Okay.
that's why I didn't come back to you for 2 years. And now I'm the college topper. I've got a
Wow.
campus placement somewhere. And then he done his ITI.
Mm.
And now I'm going to be going to a job. Thank you for all this. I think that was a very sweet moment to have that. There are 87 such stories only in scholarships.
Oh, wow. How does it feel to have the power to change lives?
Oh, it is fantastic. I think that is truly joyous. Nothing in the world can beat that joy. Maybe except masala dosa on a good hungry day. But yeah, I think those joyous moments, absolutely. Nothing beats that joy. So we had another incident. So we'd volunteered at a school in 2004, 2005 is when we started. 2006 we volunteered at a school in Elmangla.
Mm.
And that was the first time it actually decided one school a year. So
Mm.
until then it was like many organizations, every quarterly one place. And then one school a year, and that too like after Nelmangla told you need to go 30 kilometers interior. And we went there, really nice school. Um, and by the date of this incident, it's been a year almost since we've been to that school.
Mm.
And we had a plantation drive close to like around 30 to 40 kilometers from the same place. While returning via train, it's like almost there. That too is a big this thing. So we had 80 people volunteer, and almost the entire bogie was like filled with our volunteers. And
Mm.
out of that, 90% the first time I was seeing them. I don't even know who they are, but we are like, okay, we all want to volunteer. So it was like a massive project.
Mm.
So we get to that particular space. It's a request stop.
Mm.
And, like all of us who previously volunteered at this, we basically come down to the window and, like look at the kids outside. The kids are playing outside.
Mm.
And the railway track and the school is like generally like a 500-meter gap. So, but there is generally like there's a big playground. The kids keep playing.
Mm.
So that's how it is. So the kids also sometimes request for a stop. Sometimes the teachers get on, etc., etc.
Okay.
So they see me as in the train and they recognize me from a year back. And me and a few other volunteers were looking out of the window and they start waving. And
Mm.
apparently one of them recognizes me. So I had a like Pujari was the other nickname that I had. So I basically have
Okay.
a chuttu
Ah.
here.
Ah.
Okay, so that is with that people, like kids there were calling me Pujari Anna.
Ah.
So they were like, "Oh, Pujari Anna is here," and like they went inside. They were having lunch. They
Mm.
went inside. They called the other rest of the other kids outside, and they started waving to us until the train left. All of this thing,
Wow.
and so that moment was, I think, I don't know. There are many the bests. And that was another, and I had also volunteered to teach, say these. That was a big project even in our office to teach spoken Kannada to a lot of these security personnel. So they used to come from Rajasthan,
Mm.
UP, Delhi, Bihar, strongly from Rajasthan, Meghalaya, those Arunachal.
Hmm.
So those areas, and they were front ending a lot of these people who are coming in asking for directions. So we were like, let's teach them spoken Kannada. All of these 20-year-old, 25-year-olds who haven't touched a book in the last 8 years, 10 years, and they first came to us like, we were all sir to them, and they used to look at us like we were a pedestal above.
Hmm.
And all of their eyes were always averted down the stairs. And like after 3-4 months, like I was the low, and me and the other volunteers, the local celebrities. I think even if the president came to the office, I don't think they would even get something as a nod or a good morning. But if when I and the other volunteers were just coming into the office, suddenly they were like, "Hi sir, oota aita, tindi aita, coffee aita." Then suddenly from somewhere they were like, "Sir, where are you?" Then I was like, who's calling? So they used to come, they used to talk. So when I quit, so in last year and a half, when I quit, so one of them recognized me that, like after the pandemic, we were never going to office like on a daily basis. One of them recognized me and be like, how are you? So even with the mask, they could recognize me. And they're
Hmm.
like, how are you? And I told them this is my last day.
Hmm.
And so she went up to the kiosk, got a energy bar to me and said, she's like, this is the only thing that I could find that I want to give you back. So that was so amazing, so beautiful. And to see all of them, I think we met around 75 such people across 5 batches. And there are
Hmm.
many people who used to, even after somewhere, whenever they used to meet me in and around Kormangla, they used to give me a hi and, come to me, talk and all that. So those are like, I think on top of the head, like fascinating experiences.
Wow.
Like I can go on and on. I think there are tons of stories.
You've touched so many lives and it's so
Oh, it is
inspiring.
so fun. It was so fun. And also not just lives of people who were, beneficiaries, even volunteers. I think there were so many first time volunteers
Hmm.
who never seen like hardship, who never got onto like a train, just even without a seat. And seen people with even with in terms of the food that we ate in the government schools, even though it was simple, I think it was so meaningful and so fulfilling. I've had so many people come to me and say, okay, thank you so much for doing this. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So 500 to around 700 volunteers like have been inflow and outflow of around that many number. It was a fun experience. And for them, it was very meaningful. And like the more people I got into this, like for me, it was even like got amplified more.
Hmm.
It was a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are so many stories. I don't know where to stop, where to begin.
So, how does so how can one become a volunteer with you?
I think with me, all they need to do is just send me a message. So now what I do is I don't do physical volunteering. I think pre-pandemic is when we used to do physical volunteering.
Hmm.
Now I only do fundraising. But I
Hmm.
do know of a lot of organizations that need, say, people who can come in and volunteer. So I know of somebody who works with, say, puppies, so abandoned puppies. So it's called Let's Live Together. So they need somebody to foster the puppies from at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes 1 month,
Hmm.
until they get to an adoption point. I
Hmm.
know of many organizations that are looking for volunteers who want to donate blood.
Hmm.
And then there are places where they need physical presence for to play with kids, to play with elders. So I don't do this straight away. So I am now sort of moved to a place where if you come to me and you tell me what is that you want to do, I can put you in touch with a lot of other people. But
Hmm.
my main space now has got to fundraising, because now I feel that how much ever we can do at a physical space, there's one. There's also a larger impact that we can make through, say, the whole point of not advocacy, but maybe at a one level higher, if you're looking at it, even in terms of funding. So there are many organizations that really have all the things that they need to have. You know, I, it's like if you're coming in and putting effort, it's fantastic. But their main problem is with funds. So if funds can be somehow arranged, a lot of things can shift. So
Hmm.
that's where I get into fundraising. So I did one wherein I think for 2 years we wrote one book a year, wherein everybody contributes one poem or story, English, Hindi, and Kannada, so
Hmm.
combined, any language, and then we sell that particular ebook for around 100 rupees, 150 rupees.
Mm.
From that, we raise funds, we give it to somebody.
Mm.
So we did that. So like with the same thing with fundraising. So we have one of the schools we gave a water filter, and
Okay.
we gave all the way in 2017.
Mm.
Even to this day, every day that water filter gives water to around 300 school kids.
Okay.
So not 300, maybe at all the same point, but at least 300 kids have access to safe, clean drinking water.
Mm.
And that's over 5 years.
Mm.
So you can, and it costs us around 18K, 18 or 20K.
Mm.
Even that particular number,
Mm.
if I were to give, say, stationery versus do something versus give them food 1 day, 2 days, this
Mm.
is a huge, sustainable space with
Mm.
bringing in, say, one particular subject that goes on to give them so much more. So that's the place why I get into fundraising. And now I'm
Mm.
got into the educational space. So people can contribute their funds, their contacts, because it anyway is a growing space. But if they do want to physically volunteer, there are, I don't do this, but happy to always contribute and, share other numbers. There's Boomi, there's Be the Volunteers, there's Let's Be the Change. There are like a truckload of NGOs that I know of. So
Mm.
you all you need to do is let me know what is that you want to contribute at.
Mm.
If it is working with animals, working with orphans, working with old age, working on sustainability,
Mm.
or there's like a lot of NGOs.
Mm. Mm.
Always a joy connecting.
Okay. So glad to know that people can connect with you if they want to volunteer.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So you said you shifted between, time and effort towards volunteering to actually
Mm,
fundraising. And you spoke specifically about education sector. Can
mm,
you talk a little bit more about how you're fundraising, how people
yeah,
can
yeah,
contribute?
yeah. Absolutely. I think I never miss a chance for getting and that particular space into play. So yeah, I think it's very simple. So what I decided was the history is we used to ask. So I used to make posters and be like, for this particular organization, we're fundraising. Sometimes it was like, we need 5 lakhs and we put around 4.5. And the other 50 is like really difficult to get the other 50. And then we used to constantly put it on our WhatsApp saying we need 50, we need 50. So at some point in the pandemic, I think I had a burnout. I had a volunteer burnout.
Mm.
So I said, if we have to get something, we need to give, and a place where, there's a give and take between you and me. And then I decide what to do with that fund. So
Mm.
I give you a service, or, I give you something that you really are interested in. And that's where
Mm.
this whole point of writing came into it.
Mm.
So I started writing stories, and I started writing poems. So anyways, it is going. So poem was never a problem. So I read stories, I put it in a nice format, and then I started charging for it.
Mm.
So over a period of time, I started from 50 rupees to now, say 5,000 rupees for 2 years.
Mm.
So it has come to that place. So what I do is I write, and then people can subscribe to that for a annual or 2 years space. Right now, 2 years.
Mm.
And then whatever comes from that, at least from 2024 to 2026 onwards,
Mm.
I take 50% of it as, say, service fees,
Mm.
and the other 50 goes towards charity. So every year, 2,500 goes to this particular cause. So previously it was 500, then it moved to 1,000. So what I do is the entire corpus gets collected.
Mm.
And then from there, the NGOs or sometimes government schools and some other NGOs who put me in touch with other government schools, they will come back saying there's one or two students who we've seen, and then they actually are in real need of funds. Can you help us? So
Mm.
they do the due diligence, and then
Mm.
they come with all the data, and then it's basically after I've checked, they've paid to the school, etc., etc., school
Mm.
or college, then I transfer the amount to them. The fundraising happens in this particular space. People can directly contribute. If they don't want to contribute to the writing part and then get something in return,
Mm.
they can always contribute directly.
Okay.
Or otherwise, I would prefer it that you also support a writer in the interim, and it's a two-in-one process. It's a win-win-win. So you contribute, you get something in return. And
Okay.
then if this space has not been there, it's really difficult to get funds also.
Mm.
So I say you get something in return, the kids get the maximum benefit
Mm.
for them. So sometimes, like I told you, those two places, and there are like so many young kids like that. So I know of somebody who had gone back home,
Hmm.
Two young girls had gone back home because they couldn't tell their parents that you've not paid fees.
Okay.
And the college was like, you can't come until you paid fees. So they went back home. And some NGO contact came in touch with me and said, this is something like this has happened. Can you look at, coming in between and, maybe funding them for a year? The fees was 2,400 for both of them.
Okay.
And 2400 is, I think, like if you go to a mall and you come back, you would
Yeah.
have paid more than that on a simple basis.
Correct.
And that was the cost of somebody's education.
Hmm.
And for me, I tell people, so for you, what is 5 rupees can mean the world for somebody else. So even
Hmm.
if it's as simple as say 100 rupees that you're donating, it can shift the world for somebody else. This is something like that. So I write, and then because I keep a standard space, I think you are also getting something in return. And if you come back and say, ask, where is this money going? I can always say, XYZ went to this particular amount, this particular person. But it's not that like I maintain that sort of a space wherein I don't want to make it saying, okay, I don't want to make videos with them before and after. And
Hmm.
I don't want to put that particular beneficiary under a stress saying, oh, my story is going to go outside.
Hmm.
I keep it saying, you trust me. If you trust me, you're like, this money is going to the right place. And
Hmm.
I'll make sure that it reaches the right people at the right time in the right place. So you'll have to trust me with this, or otherwise, even if you don't trust me, you're getting something in return. So you've got your product, you've got your poems,
Hmm.
but I'm making sure that this goes to the right place. So something that I've been doing for 2 years. Very lazy to do an NGO, start an NGO and run it through the NGO. So I run it through my own name, my own space as of now. But there are a lot of people who are contributing. So
Hmm.
I still front end this space, but a lot of people have contributed. So it
Hmm.
started with 500 rupees. Now it went to 1,000 last year. Now it's gone to 5K. So it's scaling. So that's how things are moving. And this is how I fundraise. And then there are different methods also. Like some people, I ask them to do their own artwork and then they sell and they give it to me. Some
Hmm.
percentage they give it to me.
Hmm.
So that's how it goes in here. We do these books once a year, which this year we've not been able to. So I'm a little guilty of that. But hopefully next year there are two books.
We are in December, so
Yes,
next year is
yes.
very, very close. So
So that's
there's
how people can join. All they need to do is just like after this podcast, write to me,
hmm.
and then yeah, I think it's quite simple.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
that's how it goes, and they can also directly pay. So if they just want to contribute any amount directly without getting into this, their 5,000 that they have to contribute for 2 years
Hmm.
overall, then it's they can actually give anywhere between 100 to as much as possible. The other number is not fixed. The higher threshold is not fixed.
Of course. Hmm.
Yes.
So there's something very beautiful that you mentioned, that the 100 rupees that may not mean something for you may change the world for somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think every fund that we've raised
Hmm.
is symbolic of that.
Hmm.
So this money space, so we done a cooking without fire. So we very like our team. So by the
Hmm.
time it actually like really blossomed,
Hmm.
and I quit in 2019, just before the pandemic. I quit the CSR space. I
Hmm.
wanted to do things on my own, and then came the pandemic, and a lot of things shifted.
Hmm.
So we were very famous in our CSR space to run these cooking without fire spaces.
Okay.
And the first time we did something, we were like, oh, maximum 3,000 is what we'll get. And we ended up 20. And so that for us was like an eye opener, saying, oh, this can actually get us some a lot of funds. So we were looking for 3K. We're
Hmm.
getting around 20. It's like people are ready to contribute. They
Hmm.
just need to know that the right place and the right cause is getting benefited.
Hmm.
There's never been a place and never been a problem for raising funds that way. So
Hmm.
we did something like that, and then we had one intervention, and we still had 15,000 left.
Hmm.
And I think it was August somewhere where we had this fund with us. And then the results for the previous year, 10th standard, actually come up.
Hmm.
And so we like once you start volunteering in government schools, they'll call you on Republic Day, they'll call you on August 15th, the
Independence
Independence Day.
Day. Huh.
So we have to be there for the flag hoisting. That I think was the most beautiful. Like every time they called us, I think it was a
Chief
fantastic
guest.
experience. But most of the times, what used to happen is you used to go late. They would have done the flag hoisting. But de facto speech giver was to be me.
Uh,
And even this place, they asked me to give a speech. And
uh,
then I told the teacher saying we plan to give scholarship funds for two kids.
mm,
And they're like, don't announce it until I tell you. So
mm,
every other person was on the dais. They
mm,
actually said, okay, we are giving 200 rupees to the kid, like first rankers. We're giving a book, we're giving gifting books to the library and stuff like that. So then, teacher introduced us and I was on the podium.
mm.
And then I said for first rank and second rank last year, we're giving 15,000 in total, 8,000 for the first one and 7 for the
Seven.
second.
Uh,
They had a delta of 3 or 4 marks maximum.
uh.
And what happened next was like huge. So we got a 7.5 minute or an 8 minute standing ovation.
Oh my God.
And for the first rank student, I think her dad was a barber.
Okay.
So there even 4 or 5 years of this thing he had to work 4 or 5 years to even get to that particular number. Like they
Mm,
were in a village of 40. So how many
mm.
people in a village of 40 get
Of course.
get to go
Yeah.
to a barber?
Uh,
And they were in a small hut, and the teacher had given us the background, and we didn't know the extent of what was the 7,000 and 8,000 going to do for them.
mm,
And I was a little embarrassed saying, oh, we are only giving them this much. We could have maybe like done something more. It
uh,
was like the typical Schindler's List final scene. So it was definitely one of the most moving spaces. But yeah, lot of fun, absolute lot of fun. Even that 15K or 16K water purifier.
mm,
So that continues to work with last 6 years, maybe 2 or 3 repairs down the line.
mm.
But every day 300 kids have access to clean drinking water, and that you cannot put it in numbers. And
Exactly.
15K, 16K is like a freshers party in an
Uh,
office in a corporate. So numbers sometimes really really shift. So anytime and everybody is like I think sometimes even it's not the fund.
mm,
So the amount of love. So whenever I used to, so the last 2 years, the like 2018, 2019, we're going to a school in Magdi, and
mm,
that's around 80 kilometers from mainstream Bangalore
mm,
and semi rural space itself. And the school was a fantastic school. So it was like Asia's first pyramid school, being run entirely on philanthropy. Uh, Founder was somebody who was working with NAL. He took voluntary retirement.
mm.
We went back to his hometown, gave up his ancestral property. In the ancestral property, started a trust,
Okay.
and they've been running for around 25 years,
Mm,
in a beautiful place.
mm,
So every time I used to go there, like every 2 weeks once we used to go there. So the moment I go, I had a favorite class. So whenever I go, they used to, come all the way out and start looking who's going to be the, volunteer teacher for today. When
uh,
I went, they used to be like, oh, Sunil sir is coming. And then, there was a mandatory hug. Everybody coming in, hugging you. I think that joy, even as a volunteer, is like, even if you give millions of rupees, I don't think you'll get that. Yeah. But millions of rupees are needed for the organization to run. But for kids, it's a separate space. So if to like there was tug of war to who I sit with. So they were like almost 600 students, and
okay.
they were like favorite pockets in between. They're like, okay, you have to sit with us today because last time you came, you sat with them.
Uh,
Oh, that's fun. And they used to be like, my mom's made chitrana. Do you want to eat chitrana today?
so
Okay,
they were
give.
bribing you, huh?
Oh, it was one of the most amazing spaces. I think if I had to give up on coaching and start something else, I think like if it was physical volunteering, that would be it. Oh, it was worth it because we were going in buses, and
Mm,
while coming, almost 20-25 of us never got seats. It
mm,
was almost 2.5 hour journey like that. And every Saturday, or like every 2 Saturdays once, I used to wake up at 5:30 and come
mm,
back around 7 o'clock, like
mm,
seriously dead tired. But the smile on my face is never gone. So the entire space is like that. So there is that specifically with regards to money, there's something, but I think there's also like uh, as a volunteer, as a volunteer leader, it is another ball game.
mm.
So any fund can shift. So this 2,400 was one, and then somebody is like, I want to apply for a big exam. and I don't think I have even 1,400 with me. So can you arrange that? They're like, okay, we can do this. And that fellow is somebody whose mom runs works in a garment factory.
Mm,
He stays very near a flour mill. So
mm,
90% of the time until 9 o'clock, this fellow does not get any 5 minutes spare time to even like sit down and study because the mill is on
mm.
100% of the time. And that fellow had got around 94% or something in his
Oh,
10th
wow.
standard.
Okay.
And he went to a good school, like college later, and they were teaching him stuff that was good, like good for triple E, and he continues to do well. So uh, for him, that 1400 was huge.
Mm,
And then somebody asked for a calculator. And the calculator, I had to go through two or three people saying, okay, it is needed in Mysore. Is any volunteer ready to give up on their engineering, one that they've already used? And somebody said, no, I'll come and get a new one.
uh,
So that happened. And that was almost like 1,200 rupees. But for
wow.
him, that was gold. The
Mm,
money, I think, sometimes plays a huge role and a
wow.
multiplier role whenever we're going semi-rural. I think that amount of money is literally gold.
Mm.
Yeah.
So as you were speaking about calculators, my mind went to all the things that I have never used, right?
Ah,
And there are
yeah.
so many things that could change someone's life that are probably
Someone's
just
life.
lying around in the house, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this comes up. You have these young kids. Sometimes they're actually out putting a Hanuman Vesha, Ram Vesha, another thing. I think it's prevalent in Bangalore. They
Mm,
come, they sing, and all that. So
mm,
there's one kid who came to my place, and then I said, I'm not giving you money, but I'll give you a book, like a story book.
mm,
And we'd collected, I think, I'd run this thing all across India, and I was the Bangalore volunteer for one of the organizations.
mm.
And I had around 3,000 books at home. My mom used
Okay.
to scold me, why are you putting so many books in your room? And I gave five or six of this to this guy. And his, like the Hanuman, the real Chota Bhim and Chota Hanuman smile came on him. And he was like, thank you, sir. Thank you. And like, I think the thank you it went and across the entire road. So he was really happy, as, showing off the books to other friends who would come along. So
Uh,
sometimes you don't need to really spend too much. And
mm,
yeah, I think if people in Bangalore are listening to this, at least I know people in Bangalore. The
mm,
interfaces in Bangalore are quite strong.
mm,
Um, but yeah, so if you have something that you want to give away or contribute, reuse, repurpose,
mm.
right from phones, old phones, tablets, chairs, tables, clothes,
Cycles.
cycles. Oh, there are many, and I know a lot of wonderful people through these initiatives,
Mm,
and they actually do the hard work,
mm,
and I only touch the right. I only act as a bridge between
mm.
whoever is the donor and whoever is the recipient.
So I can see you are
So
quite modest.
I think I think that plays a double-edged sword. So one is because I've seen people who've done bigger and say more impactful things than me,
Mm,
and somewhere say a normal person would look at me saying, "Oh, you're doing a lot of things."
mm,
But I do see that I have seen people who've done fantastic things.
mm,
I know of people who run NGOs for blood donation. So they have a network of around 200, 300 people,
mm,
almost always on standby,
mm,
so ready to give this thing. I know of somebody who runs NGOs full-fledged, who
mm,
are working with mentally challenged, women, which are who are working with kids in, say, tribal areas.
mm,
So at somewhere I am looking at somebody, who's done bigger things. And somewhere I'm feeling I'm only, like it's that Alilu Seve that happens to a larger equation.
mm,
And I think in NGO it is very, very important when you're doing social work, not to really get ahead of yourself saying, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that. So
mm.
two things as well come into this modesty space. I agree that it looks modest. Yeah.
Mm,
But there's a lot that we can do, a lot that we can do even without spending money.
mm,
Spending money is maybe sometimes helpful for others, but I think spending time, that's what I've seen. When I go to, say, schools, orphanages, old age homes, I think the NGO or the structure help needs funds to run the show. But the people inside, I think what they need is warmth, love, compassion, listening, conversations, and made to feel like you're me and you are on the same page.
Mm,
It's not that I am a higher human and you're a lesser human. If we able to bring that we are on the same page, I think that joy is unparalleled
yeah.
for them as well as for us.
Yes. So, as you speak about this, I remembered where our conversation started about this podcast, right?
Yes,
Is where
yes, yes.
I was sharing my volunteering experience with you.
Correct, correct, correct.
And then one thing that struck me was that uh, there are like 25 people sharing one room, and yet they seemed genuinely happy. Like you go meet
Oh,
them, they want to hug you, they want to talk to you. They're like, okay, I really want to spend time with you.
oh yes, oh yes. And then they actually like hook you in when you're leaving. They're like, when
uh,
you're coming next.
uh,
And that is like you want to come back just for them. You want to come back, just sit, share. Make it feel like it's a normal conversation between you and me, and I think that's what everybody's looking for. I've
mm,
had so many such experiences. They'll come, especially in government schools, it's a little easier. Like it's not as much of an like it's not as intense as it is when it's in an orphanage. So
mm.
they'll, tug you and be like, oh, this is my mom, this is my dad. Then they'll introduce you to their parents, and their parents are very awkward. You are very awkward. But for the kid, it is like, oh, I'm making my parents meet somebody that I, look up to, somebody that I respect. And when they're looking up to you, they're respecting you, man, that's a separate feeling. You want to make sure you're the best person out there because somebody else is looking up to you.
They're setting those higher expectations for
Oh, big
you.
time, big time, big time. And a lot of it is just clean, genuine, simple love. Uh,
Mm,
that is for sure. But I
yeah.
haven't volunteered in many places, like especially dog shelters or cat shelters. Uh, but yeah, I do know of people who do that, and like somebody comes along, I just put them forward with that. But I
Mm,
do want to work with, I think one project is still pending is beach cleaning and say, turtle conservation, reptile conservation. So
okay.
those things are on my bucket list. I don't know when it'll happen.
Okay.
So anybody who's listening who knows such interfaces, put us in touch.
So now I have to ask, right? Uh, so you're doing this volunteering, and there are, so you also do a lot of other things, right? You
Uh,
spoke about, so I know you are a PCC, so you coach, and you also spoke about stand-up comedy and
yeah.
photography and PJs. So how do you manage time for all of these things?
I think all of these are, I think this question, I think I should do a video and put it out on YouTube. It's been asked so many times. Um, and somewhere one distraction is another. Another place is, say, full-time work. So if I'm tired with coaching and then I get
Mm,
into, say, talking about sustainability, or
mm,
I write, I take a photograph.
mm,
So I am having bursts of many breaks in between, and
mm,
all break is leading something to meaningful, something fulfilling. So I
mm,
don't feel tired. I
mm,
am like I don't feel distracted.
mm,
All of it is getting into, say, that flow zone.
mm,
So nothing really seems like a chore. So
mm,
everything is there, and everything is giving me energy to move forward. So none of them are energy sapping, and I think everything is energy giving. So at
mm,
some days, it really pushes me to do many things at for a lot of people, it looks like many things at once. But
mm,
essentially, I'm doing one thing at a time and doing
mm,
that with full focus.
mm,
And everything has had so much of practice. Maybe not with stand up,
mm,
but with poems, I've been writing for 12 years.
mm,
With coaching, I've been doing it for a year and a half straight.
mm,
Um, even with volunteering, to plan a volunteering event from start to scratch, maybe it takes me 2 hours.
mm,
Because I've done it so many times, I know what should not be done,
mm,
and then what to do, how to do, what is a contingency plan, who does what.
mm.
So to plan certain things takes like hardly 2 hours, and out of this, 1 hour will only go to do the Canva formatting. So after that, it is easy. So I'd say, yeah, one distraction leads to another fulfilling space. And that way, everything seems like there are multiple ikigais at the same place.
Hmm.
There's not one road leading to Rome, but
Hmm.
all roads lead to Varanasi. It's fun. And it's fun. No? I'm enjoying myself, so I never feel like, oh, this is tiring.
Hmm.
And so even work was like that. Sometimes a little too much. Like it became too much because it's fun, but I was like, I was not able to run it. But
Hmm.
CSR put me through, I think, helped me survive burnout for a long time.
Hmm.
It was that magic medicine that was like, oh, I will come back to the office the next day. So that was how it was. And even there in office, sometimes like I think you need a conversation to uplift you, and you
Hmm.
don't need much. So that's how things are, and not too much of things are required.
Hmm.
So especially for a minimalist like me, so if you treat me to ice cream, I'm done.
I know. And we spoke at length about masala dosas
Masala
and ice
dosas, ice
creams.
creams, yeah. So, and yeah, I think even that, so like simple things gives you the greatest amount of joy. So you don't have to invest much time, invest much energy into, being happy.
Hmm.
So things will flow. And after some point, it is like I have so much of time, let me do something more. So
Hmm.
that also happens.
Hmm.
Sometimes I feel I have so much of time that I can even catch a Netflix binge. Yeah. So to like I don't know if I've answered your question as to how I manage time.
You said you do different things which give you bursts of energy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. You said
yeah.
one activity is like a break from the other for you.
Break from the other, fantastic. Like it never fails to amaze me as to how things are just gelling together at some point. So I have no complaints.
Hmm.
That's
So,
how things
so then let me get you back to some corporate favorite question.
are. Go
Did you
for it.
see
Go for it.
yourself here 10 years ago?
No, absolutely no. Uh, I think I was shit scared of volunteering.
Okay.
Uh, and not necessarily volunteering, because I've never done that before. So
Okay.
anything that I've never done before, I think for me it was like very scary, anxious space. What volunteering gave me was it gave me that space that I can do this.
Hmm.
And it was like one step after the other. So it's like slowly my circle of safety got better, bigger,
Hmm.
stronger.
Hmm.
And I think that shifted. And
Hmm.
I think through CSR, I met two presidents of the organization. Uh,
Oh.
and like had dinner conversations and lunch conversations with them. Some of them are still in touch. So I met various levels of hierarchy. I met them as people and not as CEO,
Hmm.
CFO, CTO, whatever.
Not the
So I met them
title.
as people.
Hmm.
And I met close to 1,500 volunteers over across.
Hmm.
And I've spoken to around 5 to 6,000 of them, trying to convince them or inspire them to volunteer.
Hmm.
With CSR, it opened up a lot of other, say, volunteer leadership roles.
Hmm.
I don't think so. Like without CSR, there would have been I think, a universe of a difference between me and then. 10 years, I think so. It's 2013. So I was still in college. I don't think, even teachers had confidence in me cracking the exam because I was never the topper, never the one who does too bad such that you're failing. So I
Huh.
was in between. I was conscious. I was, like conscious of the exam, looking to learn. Not necessarily marks was never really there, especially in engineering. Never
Hmm.
there in engineering.
Hmm.
So 2013, if I look back to now, with say 2024 on the horizon, I never thought this would come. And I hadn't written my first book also. It took me around 2017 to say, first book. By 2023 is almost 9. So like that first breakthrough, after that, a lot of things have changed in all aspects. But
Hmm.
yeah, 10 years back, no ways. Absolutely no ways.
Okay, then now I'll ask you a coaching favorite. How
What
does
have I
this
learned?
realization make you feel?
Oh, it is fascinatingly powerful.
Hmm.
I think one of the realizations happened that I'm not a one trick pony
Hmm.
uh, when the pandemic happened.
Hmm.
And there was like I think I'm eternally grateful to a lot of universal say nudges. I did something called as working out loud. So I was
Mm,
then in touch with people across Germany, Japan, USA, Europe,
mm,
all across.
mm,
And when I was sharing my story, what I got from them was why, like, where were you for the last 10 years? Why this story is really inspiring.
mm,
And I think I understood for myself that hey, I can inspire people.
mm,
And from that day onwards, I think it's a new Sunil. So I wouldn't dare quit my job, having no idea what the hell am I doing. So I think my quitting the job and me getting into coaching had a 1 week overlap.
mm.
So I had no idea what coaching was.
Uh,
And to get to a point where I have so much of faith in myself that I can have a 3 o'clock at night conversation with myself and with my mom saying, if you are worried about your son, not doing well in life or, getting into, say, rough terrains, the son is worried 1000x about himself getting into rough terrains. So he will not do something stupid or, something without getting really knowing what he's getting into. But here I was not knowing what I'm getting into, but I was very sure about who I am.
mm,
So even though I don't know the road, I know the driver. So I'm
mm,
like the driver will take you safe
mm,
and make sure that you get all things that you're wanting for in this trip. So it completely shifted me. I think that core of confidence that you see, that swag, or that some people put it as somewhere this blind faith inside. All of that has come from this realization, and only with this realization, I think a lot of other things shifted. So when
mm,
I walk into a room, I walk into a room knowing that I know myself. I may not know the situation, I may not know the people, I may not know what the hell is happening,
mm,
but I know myself, so I'll find a way. So
mm,
that raw confidence has come from these realizations.
mm.
So yeah, it's a very powerful.
And I can see that it has made a world of difference for you.
Oh yeah, big world of a difference. And to me, and to some people even co-traveled with me, I think all of us, it was a this thing. So if they were like, if this fellow can do it, I think we can also do it. So we had such. I think my Bosch group, especially specifically in terms of our first 2 3 years, we were inspiring each other. We were vibing off each other's energies. We're trying to push each other to push our own passions. And in the interim, I did two short movies. So
Oh,
I don't know if you knew all that
P for
already. So
pictures.
P for pictures. It was fun. So a lot of things shifted.
Mm, mm.
And
Wow.
so that also makes me realize like one of the other workshops that I do is also in terms of helping people realize who they are.
Mm.
So that's something that's on the horizon for 24. So
Okay.
my experiences put into a particular format. I haven't figured out the format, but I know I'll figure it out.
And how can people know when it is
I
out?
think the plan is to come by that in March.
Okay.
All they need to do is reach out to me.
On
So the project
LinkedIn
is called
or
the Who
any
Am I
other
project.
platforms?
LinkedIn,
Okay.
WhatsApp. The only two places I am right now are LinkedIn and WhatsApp.
Okay.
So yeah, so my number is 8892353514,
Okay.
and email is pungidasa@gmail.com. So
Okay.
LinkedIn, if you can search Sunil Satyendra, you'll see me smiling with the standard
Mustache.
mustache in. So that's how things are. You can always reach out to storytelling, and sometimes even the personal stories that you're telling yourself. I'm very passionate about that. And
Mm,
that's also what drives me into, say, coaching, PCC, possibly looking further onwards. So all
mm.
that I'm very, very passionate about. So I think there's a long list of passions.
P for passion.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, P for podcast. But P
P for
doesn't
podcast.
have that stop signal. So like the general rule is if you allow me to speak, I think I can speak for days on end. So there always must be like somebody saying, Pungi, 5 minutes. So So they
Okay.
used to give me that and say the standard warning, 5 minutes. That's the time you have.
Okay, then I'll ask you the last question, which is you said you can inspire volunteers, right? So can you? inspire volunteers now on this
Oh yeah.
platform.
If they've not been inspired, then whatever I've spoken until now has not worked. So I like the space, in generally when I'm talking about volunteering, I think I use a lot of stories.
Mm,
So some of the other stories would have resonated to you. Yeah, I think for us, we look at it saying whatever work we are doing may be very minimal.
mm,
So I am also now volunteering for an organization called Bhumi, wherein I'll be a volunteer interviewer for
mm,
a fellowship project of them. And
mm,
this is a very small equation in a large space of things. So you should not look at maybe, how big of an impact are we making. And every idea actually sometimes gets to the space. So one of our big ideas was, like let's do paper bags.
mm,
And we did, then we were like, okay, we don't have paper, we don't have gum, we don't know which meeting room to meet. How can we put 1 hour each week? So all these were questions that we had. So we said, let's do this. We'll figure it out.
mm,
So every volunteer or every volunteer leader will have this spacing. Let's figure it out. And we did this for 26 weeks.
mm,
And every 4 days, I was putting in 15 minutes of more effort. That's
mm,
that I get 1 hour I can use on Friday.
mm.
And we did 7,000 paper bags,
Wow.
26 weeks straight. And, like that basically stopped 7,000 single-use plastics at a stretch or, at like period of 3, 4 months.
Mm,
So if we had decided that we will not do it, we wouldn't have done this. If you're thinking that I will not volunteer because I don't know what I'm doing,
mm,
you are doing the world a disservice and you are doing yourself a disservice.
mm,
So just go volunteer, have fun, find what space of volunteering really excites you,
mm,
and then just stick with that. And uh, there's always a choice to make the world a kinder place. And I think this podcast will not be complete without sharing the motto that all of our volunteering so far has run. It says spreading smiles is a simple choice. And that was a tagline we caught up on 2015 when we started this, and continues to be my motto and a lot of other volunteers who came with me. It's a very simple choice. So volunteering is also a simple choice. It changes you, it changes the beneficiaries around. And I think there's a cascading effect on all things in your life. So I don't think I'm, going to give you much more of a technical speech. What I'd say is experience it.
mm,
And then, it's like I can tell you masala dosa looks good. Go to Vidyarthi Bhavan or, go to some place, eat that dosa. But until you do that, until you go there, eat it, you will never experience the way you want to experience it. And
mm,
your experience always matters.
mm.
But it does change lives. So, go for it.
So, spreading smiles is a
A
simple
simple choice.
choice.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Very simple one.
So, thank you, Pungi, for such an amazing podcast and just being very honest and sharing all your experiences. I am sure there are a lot of folks who will be inspired by watching this.
Oh yeah, I hope so, and I'm saying at least maybe one gets inspired.
Yeah.
Minimum one gets inspired, and then like like there's never a limit for the bigger ones. There's never an upper limit. But I'd say thank you for listening. All your coaching skills were there, active listening was happening, and this peer podcasting I think looks very fun, very fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's do more peer podcasting episodes. We'll find some interesting things talk about. I'm very happy to share space with you, share my stories. Uh, Always, like, people are always looking to share stories. They always need
Yes.
someone to ask what's up. So always happy to work with this. And I think, yeah, I think now that I see it, your volunteering space, your conversations with Nippy, all that, can be brought into another conversation sometime.
Oh,
But
sure.
really happy, and I hope, yeah, somebody gets inspired. They can always get in touch. And yeah, we never know what bridge connects what places.
Yes. I will be
Yeah.
sharing the details of how to contact Sunil in the post and whichever platforms we put this up in.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, Anusha. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.